Hey everybody, Rob here at Dixie Restoration. We decided while the gauge cluster was out from our last video to go ahead and put a Dakota Digital cluster in this car. Follow along for the whole series. We'll show you step by step what it takes to install one in yours. Alright, for everybody at home following along, part 1, sensors and wiring locations. First things first, your oil pressure sensors back here next to your distributor. Coolant temp sensor, you have 3 possible locations. Cylinder head here, your intake manifold here, and the thermostat housing is another possibility. The gas gauge we will take out of the printed circuit board harness, and so will the volt gauge. Speedometer we'll get into a little bit later. As far as wiring goes, I like to lay it out beforehand. Keeps things clean, and it makes it so you don't run into any hot spots on the exhaust or anything along those lines. Somebody's already modified this car and put some wiring underneath the brake booster, so we're just going to use it there. But anywhere along the firewall will pretty much do. Each car is going to be a little bit different, so just find out what works well for yours. Alright, we're back on the interior of the vehicle. As you can see, got our wires run through the firewall, speed sensor, coolant temp, and our oil pressure. For the gas gauge and the volt gauge, we're going to remove some wires from the original bulkhead connector, and then we're going to go over mounting our box. As you see, there's inputs for everything here. We have our fuel, oil, water, the momentary switches, which we'll go over at the end, the speedometer, and then your warning lights, tach, and there's the inputs for the keyed power, constant power, and your ground. Alright, so far the install is pretty straightforward. We have Dakota's handy dandy tech sheet that makes things easier. We reuse the factory wiring for our blinkers, our high beam signal, brake warning light, and our fuel sending unit. Dakota Digital sensors are all plugged in. We just have to tackle the speed sensor. After we do that, we'll shorten any excess wiring and plug that in, and then we'll move on to mounting the box permanently. Alright, here we have our tail shaft housing, and here's our speedometer cable. Cable gets unscrewed and put out of the way for now. We'll completely remove it later. Our speed sensor then gets screwed on. It doesn't have to be over tightened, you just want it snug. Then our sensor gets plugged in, and we're good to go.